Hello everyone, Nubkeks here, and welcome to my tier list for the Zarya Patch in Heroes of the Storm. We're doing something a little bit different today in this video as well. I'm going to have the face cam down the bottom. I had some people say in other videos that they find it more engaging if I'm down here kind of gesticulating and so on. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. We'll be here for the whole video. If you really hate it, don't worry, I've made sure it's not going to cover anything important on the screen, so you can like open a notepad file and pop it on top of me or something, so you don't have to look at me. I don't know, whatever you want, but do let me know in the comments what you think about that. But yeah, let's dive into this. I've got everything set up as usual. I've as of the new structure, broken it down into every role. So we're going to look at the warriors, the assassins, the supports, and the specialists. There's 3 tiers. Tier 2 are like perfectly good heroes. Tier 1, they're a bit better. And then Tier 3, they're a little bit worse. For any of these tiers, you could, in theory, pick up some Tier 3 heroes. At times, they're just going to be very niche. There's going to be very specific circumstances where you want them. Generally speaking, in ranked games, you're going to be wanting to go for the Tier 1 heroes as much as possible. This is also for Grandmaster and Master, that sort of level of play. As you go down the different leagues, it'll still apply a little bit, but it will apply a little bit less every time you go down. And generally speaking, as you go down the leagues, heroes that are easier to play will go up, and heroes that are less reliant on specific compositions will go up the ranks, whereas more difficult heroes to play will go down the ranks as players struggle to make the most out of them in a ranked situation. Also, as we go into today, another thing I'm going to do, because I think this is very important actually in the current patch. I should have done it last patch as well, but I will do it this patch. We're going to take a look here. Okay, these are the patch notes for today for Europe, or yesterday for the United States. Got a pool of battlegrounds. All right, not all of the battlegrounds are active, and this is actually very important. So we've got Warhead Junction, Brax's Holdout, Towers of Doom, Dragonshire, Battlefield of Eternity, and Cursed Hollow. So one of the things you'll notice is that we have a lot of larger maps and 2-lane maps, and we've got very few of these maps where you've got 2 lanes very close together, like Blackheart's Bay or Tomb of the Spider Queen, for example, where you can do these very fast rotations. A lot of these maps, the lanes are quite spaced out, and it's difficult to do 2-man rotations, so that will affect a little bit some of the heroes that are viable. For example, Zool, I think, will go down a bit in our tier list because we don't have, well, a couple of his strongest maps right here, like Infernal Shrines or Tomb of the Spider Queen. They're not here, so that's going to affect things. So do bear that in mind that we've got the map things. Anyway, let us dive into this tier list. So the meta, let's talk a little bit about the meta as well as we go into this, because the warriors are actually the bit that has changed the most since the last tier list. I think for the most part, we're in a very similar meta to the last time we did a tier list. However, I think this is just from playing ranked games myself and getting a feel for Season 2 and kind of just formalizing or improving on, iterating on the formula that we had last time for making the tier list. I'm also going to be including versatility as a category, as an important thing for the tier list here. People were saying, for example, Leoric, I've moved down to tier 3. Leoric is now a tier 3 hero in my eyes. Why is that? Well, it's because Leoric, you want to pick him into something like a double warrior composition. He's quite a niche hero in that sense. And the big question is, do people at Master and Grandmaster level, I'm playing in Europe by the way, do they actually pick him into the niche? And something that we've learned from our games that we've played so far is that no, very often he's not picked into that niche and leaves your team in a massive disadvantage. We saw that several times from our teammates, from the enemy teammates. I think it's just, yeah, I think this really matters. Can you pick heroes that will be just generally useful? It's a skill to draft correctly, and even Master and Grandmaster players can be lacking in that regard. Regardless of what you might think, they can be very much so. So yeah, that will matter. But we are, as I said in the last patch, sort of analysis and tier list, sustained heroes, right-click heroes especially, are becoming more powerful, even more so this patch with the Vala buffs. And yeah, that's basically going to affect all these tier lists, and especially the warriors. So let's dive right into the warriors. Number 1, I've got Muradin. In fact, here we go. This is what it looked like last year, in case you want to take a look at this. And this is what it looks like now. So, as you'll see, we've got some of these anti-right-click heroes have risen up, and then some of the anti-burst heroes have fallen down. So Muradin is number 1. He's so flexible. He's great against melee-based attackers, range-based attackers. He's just really good against every composition, so that's why he's number 1. He's just so strong. and great against the sustained damage dealers for sure, with the great self-sustain that he has himself, plus his mobility and his control. Number 2, Johanna's actually moved up and she's taking the number 2 spot. I was thinking about this during all my ranked games this season as well. And Johanna is pretty much the ideal tank to have against these ranged basic attackers. She's got a ranged blind, she's got a ranged stun with her heroic. Condemn, her W is sort of like a mini stun on a sort of mini range as well. So she's got a lot of tools to deal with these ranged basic attackers, more so than a lot of these other heroes. And then she's also backing up her team and being a strong front line while doing that. So she can protect her sustained range damage dealers while also disrupting the enemy's ones from safety. So yeah, she's just fantastic, brings a lot of wave clear as well. I think she's like an absolutely top tier tank right at the moment. Chen has also moved up here. I'm not a big Chen player myself, but I've heard from people that did play Chen that it was a big buff, that they're loving it, and that apparently he's going to be really, really strong. So let's watch out for Chen. I think one of the big issues with Chen before was that he was very specific in what he was doing. I think this talent rework certainly gives him a lot more versatility, will help him deal with more team comps. And he did have a good one. He had a good win rate before, but he's kind of specific. I think this brings him more into more generally useful position. So yeah, apparently he's going to be amazing. Tyrael is down here as well. Tyrael is still really good. I just feel that some of the melee assassins that he comboed really well with are not as dominant now. We've moved a little bit more into like a sustained ranged meta. We used to be, I think at the start of season 1 it was like a ranged burst meta, then it was a melee assassin meta. Now we've moved into a bit more of a sustained ranged meta, so he's a little bit weaker in that sense. He's still very, very good warrior though, still excellent, absolutely top tier, so watch out for him. ETC as well, not entirely sure how the stuff's going to work out for him. I think he got sort of like overall a bit of a buff to his play, but they nerfed specifically his ganking, which was his best thing that you picked him for. So yeah, I think he's still going to be tier 1 for sure. He also has got a really powerful block talent at level 1, which could be a really big deal. But yeah, I'm interested to see this in the games. Like, how does this new ETC actually pan out? But I think, roughly speaking, he'll still be about the same power level, roughly. Yeah, I think so. Maybe a little bit weaker in the ganking, and yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Arthas, if Johanna is my favorite warrior against these ranged basic attackers, Arthas is by far my favorite against these melee basic attackers. Muradin can do both. But yeah, Arthas is fantastic. He just makes life so difficult for heroes like Thrall, for heroes like, well, Tyrael as well, these bruisers like Tyrael, Sonya, Greymane, Illidan, anyone like that. He's just so good at dealing with those heroes. So I personally love Arthas. I think he's amazing. I think he's fantastic. I think he's really good to bring in as a bruiser role, as this just make your front line extremely powerful and really deny these enemy melee heroes as well. So yeah, he's tier 1 for me in that sense. Then you have Rexxar too. Once again, extremely unpopular hero with a really good win rate. Who knows why? It's a bit of a mystery, right? But I think that he is very good at the moment. I think he's very good as well at controlling these sort of these control point maps like Raxus Holdout and Dragonshire. They're both in the rotation. I think they're very good for him, and he just seems to be doing really well in general. So I'm leaving Rexxar up in tier 1. Tier 2. Okay, so I've moved Sonya up. I think Sonya's a little bit stronger than she was, so I'm going to move her up to the bottom of tier 2. I think she's still a little bit... She's not tier 1, but she's okay. She's doing okay. Cho'Gall, I think, are really underrated. They win a lot of games. They just do, because people aren't used to playing against it. I've moved Diablo and Anubarak down. They might be some of the bigger changes. I think Anubarak primarily... He did get buffs in this patch. He did get buffs, but I had him over-ranked in the last patch, and the reason was that he used to be really good into the burst meta. In this more sustained damage meta, he suffers a lot. He loses a lot of his value because he doesn't have the health and the sustain of some of these other warriors, and he does get sort of worn down by these basic attackers. They're kind of his weakness, and they're strong at the moment. So yeah, I think if you're going up against a burst team, yeah, he's great, but if you're not, he can be dodgy. Stitches is fantastic in Hero League, let's be honest. He's a bit of a niche pick, but if you can land those hooks, you can win games with the hooks. That's all there is to be said. Diablo, a bit weaker. I think like Infernal Shrine's probably his best map, and that's not here anymore, which is sad. And yeah, I feel like he's just this big target for these basic attackers, so I'm a bit nervous about him at the moment. But he can be good, but he's very niche, and I feel like with Infernal Shrine's gone, that niche is a bit gone. So yeah, I'm kind of sketchy about him. Then tier 3, I think all of these warriors underperform a lot. Zarya is here as well, by the way, so we'll see how she pans out. I'm just gonna probably just underrank, to be honest, all of the new heroes from now on, because it matters knowing how to play them and how they're supposed to be played. So they nearly always, they nearly always, I think they always do start off much worse than they end up, unless they're massively overpowered when they're released. Zarya is not. She's a supportive warrior. We'll see how she works out when people start playing her like that. But the initial impressions are that she's very weak. I suspect a lot of that is because people are playing her wrong, or expecting things out of her that she can't actually do. Which, yeah, I don't think at the moment she's any good, so be upset if you see her picked on your team in rank, probably. Right, let's go to the Assassins next. So Assassins, they haven't changed overly much. I think the biggest change you'll notice right here is that Vala has jumped to the number 2 spot right here. I think Li Ming is still number 1. I think she's still really, really strong. And people are more used to playing Li Ming, and I think that does matter. And her poking and everything. I think Li Ming is still number 1. Vala is, I think, number 2 right now. It was hilarious. I put up a video. I have a video up on how to play Vala. And that Vala's new Grey Main, that's what it's called. It is up as of about a week ago. And she's been played crazily by all the pro teams at the moment. Like in Korea, she's one of the top contested picks. And then Blizzard came out and buffed her. They came out and buffed her. They said, Vala is under tune. We need to buff her. All the pro players were going, what? You're kidding me. So, yeah, I think Vala is actually really strong. She got a bit of a buff. Now, a lot of that was to her Q talents. But still, her Rain of Vengeance and her basic attack still got buffed as well. So Vala is definitely very strong right now. She was very strong and she got buffed. So, yeah, understandably, she's way high up there. And, yeah, watch out for Vala. She's pretty much the premier right clicker right now, so yeah, pretty scary. Thrall is going to be great in this meta. As always, he's a safe pick. He's a great pick, great self-sustain, great initiation with the Sundering, great pick potential with the Sundering. Thrall is just awesome as usual. Lunara, lots of damage, so much sustain, fantastic. Falstad I've actually moved up a little bit as well. I was kind of underestimating Falstad. I think he is great. I think his damage is a little bit lower than the other range damage leaders here, but he brings a lot of utility, and that does matter. Could be particularly strong on Dragonchar and Braxis with that rotational power, Fly. Kerrigan, I've still gotten tier 1 as well. I think she's still probably, yeah, I think Kerrigan's still really good. Really powerful pick potential against some of these squishy heroes, and yeah, that matters. Infernal Shrines is gone though, so do bear that in mind, because that was probably her strongest map. I still have Jaina up here in tier 1 as well. I think Jaina is good. I think she's a very good burst mage against the sustained sort of damage that we've got here. You can lock them down with the Ring of Frost and blow them up, and boom, cool, great, well done. You just set up your team and you can win the fight. Ring of Frost, really powerful. Difficult to use though. Water Elemental, also very good, and I think it's quite good against these ranged attackers as well, getting this consistent slow on them, and then you can hit them with the Frost Bolts, get a lot of damage down, set up your other spells. I think Jaina's very strong. I've had her in tier 1 for a long time, and she doesn't get picked that much, but I think that she does just about warrant it. She's at the bottom, but yeah, bear that in mind. Tier 2 over here, I think Raynor is still up top. He does a lot of damage, a surprising amount of damage. I think the thing is, right, so you've got, in terms of these right-click heroes and assassins, you've got Raynor, who has got, like, the most single-target right-click. Lunara's got this really spread damage right-click. It's all about spreading poison around, because the poison does the most damage. Then you've got Vala, who's kind of in between. She does a lot of single target, a lot of AoE, not as much AoE as Lunara, not as much single target as Raynor, but still a lot. So yeah, that's kind of the interesting sort of like trifecta you've got right there. Yeah, Raynor's good. Chromie got buffed. Hooray! I'm actually really hyped about this. I think Chromie's great. I think she's very difficult to play. I think that's one of the main things. When you get a good Chromie though, she wins games. She's so powerful. She's really good hero if you pick her in the right circumstances. I think the issue is that a lot of people just aren't good at her. Zeratul have also moved up. Really impressed with Zeratul at the moment. He can wreck people. He's very strong. Again, another very high skill hero once again. In fact, same thing with Alarak. All of these three, if you're really good at them, great, they're going to be really good. If you're like moderate to not good at them, pick something else, because you're going to let your team down. But Zeratul can set up kills very well, and the same thing as Thrall, kind of isolating these squishy heroes. Alarak got buffs too, actually. Got buffs as well in the patch, so quite excited to see how he's going to do. He was definitely underperforming, and it's going to be one of those things of whether people are good at him or not, and it's going to take some time for most people. However, if you are here already and you feel very confident on Alarak and you're kicking ass, then yes, pick him. He could be quite good. But if you're not feeling that, if you don't sit down and say, I'm really good at Alarak, I really want to play him, if that's not your attitude, don't play him. That's what I would say. That's why he's here in this tier list, because you're going to let your team down. Tychus, I think great ranged damage dealer, really good against a warrior. Illidan is one that I could see going up because he's good against sustained damage dealers at range. That's what he's good against, and that's what's becoming popular. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm leaving him here for now, but wouldn't be surprised if he moves up a lot. The Butcher I've moved down substantially. Like I was saying with Zool, I think the Butcher, in my opinion, the Butcher excels as this specialist type hero who's clearing 2 lanes at once, stacking up his quest, and then going and being a bit of a menace late game. I feel that he's very like Zool. That's what I think, and I think the maps don't suit that at the moment. I've also seen a lot of difficulty in actually drafting the Butcher, and I think he also really suffers by Muradin and Johanna being such high priority picks. Because they're both extremely good against the Butcher. So yes, I think he could be very strong, but I don't think the maps suit him at the moment, and I'm not sure that the meta does either. But we could see him move up. We'll see. He was weaker than I thought he would be. Kelthus then, just great. He's just a solid damage dealer overall. And then I don't think there's much to be said about tier 3. I think Tracer can be very good if you pick her in the right circumstances, but generally speaking she's difficult to play. Not expecting that, and I think Greymane is underperforming. I think Greymane loses games. I don't think he's that good at the moment, but yeah, that's my experience of that. And yeah, I think that's most of the assassins covered. Let's jump into the supports. Oh sorry, this is what assassins used to look like, and this is what they look like now. It's pretty similar. Here's what supports used to look like in the previous patch, and this is what I think they look like now. So the biggest change you'll notice probably is Malfurion jumping from like the worst spot to tier 1 here. I don't play Malfurion myself. I don't like Malfurion. I find him extremely boring, but apparently this is a huge buff. I mean, you can see it in the patch notes. His heal, he can heal so many more targets. His innervate giving cooldown reduction. Huge buffs, really big buffs. Apparently Malfurion is absolutely destroying it. At the moment he's really good, so watch out for that. He's going to be a big menace. Oh, his roots got better as well. His roots got better. So yeah, he's a very powerful support at the moment. Very powerful, so watch out for that. He's tier 1 apparently, from what people are saying. Don't play him myself, but there you go. I think Oil and Brightwing are still tier 1 as well. They're just so good. Rhaegar is actually for the first time moved down to tier 2, guys. It's moved down to tier 2. He's just, his win rate's been awful lately. I think the big issue with him is the change to the 10% movement speed nerf to his Ghost Wolf. I think that's the big deal. I don't know. I expect that he should be better than he's performing. I think also another issue is that they've just buffed these other supports and that they've kind of overtaken him a little bit. He's still good. He's still very good. He's got burst single target. He's got consistent AoE healing. He's great. He's just not performing as well as others. I mean, Uther, still a really solid healer as well. Lily, actually, I think is going to be really nice. As a counter to some of these sustained right-click type heroes, she can be quite good. She's also very good in a double support type situation. Same with Turan, sort of double support situation. And Tastar as well. Tastar we might see move up as well, because with right-click heroes getting better, Tastar gets better. So yeah, I've been a bit harsh on Tassadar because it is difficult to fit him into the draft, but I could see him moving back up in these ranks quite easily. Medic as well, she's not bad, but she's quite niche. But yeah, she's very single target healing focused, which has limitations for sure. And then Karasim, I think he really not doing too well at the moment. But yeah, so there you go. I don't think any of the supports are terrible, to be honest. I think with the Malfurion buffs, I think all of the supports have a place. But this should, roughly speaking, be the priority you should be expecting when looking at them. But yeah, just know the niches of these ones, and then you can pick them sometimes. And do consider double support as well. I do think it's really good and always underrated, repeatedly underrated. People never seem to pick it, and it's so good. So watch out for that. Same with double war. People just love 3 range damage dealers, and it's terrible. So please save yourselves. Anyway, this is what the specialists used to look like. They're pretty much the same, actually. This is what they look like now. I think Sergeant Hammer is still number 1. I think she's really strong. I think Lost Vikings also really strong. Actually, yeah, probably pretty much the maps. So they can be quite good on Dragonshire, but it's difficult to play. They can be quite good in Towers of Doom. It's difficult to play. See, the traditional Vikings maps are Cursed Hollow and Garden of Terror. With Garden of Terror gone, actually, I didn't think about this when I was looking at the tier list. They could move down, actually, maybe a bit in the tier list with Garden gone. But they're very good in Cursed Hollow. And they're good in these 2 maps, but that's much more difficult to play. I don't know about Warhead Junction. But, yeah, interesting. They're obviously very niche. The thing with Vikings is that unlike some of these niche heroes that people really struggle at picking well, people just seem to know how the Vikings work. I guess it's because they're so different that people really invest a lot of thought. They sit down and go, whoa, 3 heroes in 1, and they really think about it and look up guides and watch pro replays and stuff, and then go, okay, this is how you play them. But for some reason, people are able to draft the Vikings when they're not able to draft some of these other weirder heroes. It's a bit of a mystery. I think it's because they're so unique. But yeah, people can do it well. So there you go. That's why they're still tier 1. But yeah, you'll probably see less of them at the moment. But Cursed Hollow, they can be very strong for sure. They win games. They win games. Zagara, also tier 1. I think she's just fantastic. Great wave clear and pushing and bullying potential. She's still good. Not as dominant as she was, obviously, when she released, but still really solid. And Sylvanas, similarly, she's just a really, really solid specialist. Her trait is super powerful. Team fight with Wailing Arrow is pretty good as well. I think Sylvanas is fantastic. Then we've got tier 2. I think all of these heroes are really, really good as well. Medivh, another one of those super high skill cap heroes that if you're really good at Medivh, he's going to be great. If you're not, he's also kind of, I feel like he performs a bit better against Burst because of his shield. So Force of Will, that is. So yeah, he can be quite strong against Li Ming, for example. So do bear that in mind. But yeah, again, if you're going to pick Medivh, you should be pretty expert on Medivh, and then if you're pretty expert on him, you should probably know how to draft him well. And if you do, he can be extremely strong, maybe even tier 1 potential. But generally speaking, he's going to be tier 2. But seeing a lot more Medivh at the moment, people are starting to know how to play him. So it's definitely one of those things that I think the more and more time that goes by, the more and more we're going to see Medivh actually perform well in the Hero League. Nazeebo also got a lot of buffs, and he's moved up. And again, people are saying he's very strong. I'm curious exactly how strong that could be. He could potentially be tier 1. I'm not entirely sure about Nazeebo, gotta be honest with you. Also non-Nazeebo player myself. But yeah, I mean, Nazeebo he's apparently pretty good, so watch out for that. Brings a lot of sustained damage and zone control. I don't know, like, I didn't think he was that good when I played him in my PTR games, so that might have just been the PTR games. So we'll see exactly what pans out, but keep an eye on Nazeebo. And then we've got Zul, he's in tier 2. Zul's still really good. On Dragonshire, especially in this current rotation of maps, he's going to be very strong, but a lot of his most powerful maps have been removed. So yeah, he's still very good. Won't always be a pick though. Won't always be a pick. But yeah, watch out. Zul's still a good hero, but just not as strong on some of these maps where you can't rotate between 2 lanes because they're just too big. And then we've got tier 3. Murky sucks. Asmodan still sucks. Gazlo still pretty bad, but he's got a place in some of these zone control maps, kind of. But he's pretty bad. And then we've got Abathur. Abathur can be really, really good, but he's difficult to play once again. And yeah, I think he can be good. Once again, he's another one of these heroes that it's very difficult to play. If you're really excellent at him, then go for it. If you're like, I'm alright at Abathur, probably don't play him. Okay, probably don't play him because you need to be really, really good. Anyway, there you go, guys. Let's flip through these one more time just to give you a rough overview. We've got the Warriors. They've changed up a lot in response to the shifted meta, moving away from burst damage more to these right-click basic attack heroes and sustained damage dealers. This is what it looks like. Zarya, the new hero, unfortunately, I think pretty bad at the moment. Then we've got the Assassins, looking fairly similar to where they were before, just a little bit of a shuffle around the tiers. The Butchers moved down, most notably because I just don't think that he's performing very well at the moment. Not as well as I expected. We'll see how things pan out in the future. And then Vala has moved up substantially with the buffs that they've given her. And yeah, I've just overbuffed her a little bit, I think. I'm expecting they're going to nerf multi-shot or nerf the level 7 multi-shot talent. That's my bets for the next patch. Predictions never go wrong. Oh god. Then supports, we've got Malfurion, huge jump. He's really, really good now, so watch out for Malfurion. He's going to be kicking ass, especially as well. He's sustained healing, which is good against sustained damage, right? That's always one of the things that annoyed me in Hero League, was that people would pick Malfurion or Lily into like high burst damage, and you're kind of going, why are you doing this? We're just gonna die. But yeah, against sustained damage, he's going to be quite strong. The roots are beastly. And yeah, these two are still really good. Rhaegar, not doing well in terms of win rate like he was before, and apart from that, the supports are pretty much the same. And then we've got the specialists, also pretty much the same. Zebo much better than he was, and apart from that, they haven't really changed. Zul, just beware that his maps aren't as beneficial, and same with the Vikings. But apart from that, pretty similar. There you go, guys. That has been the yada yada yada. That's been the tier list. 25 minutes. All right, a little bit longer than I was expecting and hoping for. But there you go. Do let me know what you think of me being down here in the corner. Was it more interesting? Was it annoying? Say it in the comments. Don't just like or dislike the video for that, because I don't know what that's about. I don't know if you dislike the tier list itself or me or whatever. I don't know, right? So just leave a comment or upvote or downvote. Well, more so just to say upvote. Just upvote. the comment that agrees with whether the face cam is good or bad. That probably makes the most sense. Anyway, that's the tier list. Give it a like as well if you did like this tier list, and if you enjoyed it, if you learned something. Let me know what you think of the meta, especially if you are like a main of any of these heroes that were reworked. So like Chen, Nazebo, Malfurion, anyone like that, etc as well. Yeah, we'll see how things go, but I think this is roughly speaking going to be what high level Hero League is going to look like. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'll see you all next time. Oh, by the way, I will have a Johanna video out today, like later on today, so do check that out if you want to know how to play Johanna, who's like now one of the tanks. So there will be a video on that from Hero League as well, so do check that out. And I think probably today as well I'll probably stream some Zarya, just get her up to level 5, prepare her for ranked, kind of settle in on what the best sort of talent build is. So if you guys are around during the day, I will be streaming that. And yeah, I'll see you all next time for more Heroes of the Storm. Bye bye.